Hi, everyone, and a very, very warm welcome to our next series of virtual masterclasses. My name is Esther Martinez, and we are back once again with the People Matters virtual learning sessions. It's my pleasure to welcome you all, like we do every week, every 10 days, to come and keep coming together as a community and learning from each other and having the opportunity to have experts from the field of HR and HR technology to join us to be able to keep updating ourselves and skilling ourselves. So today's masterclass is on the topic of key to successful HR technology deployment. We will talk about some of the ways that we can make HR technology deployment successful while also exploring the journeys that organizations can take to be able to balance between effectiveness of deployment, business priorities, and also employee experience. As you know, I mean, for many of you who are working from home, many of you, a lot of these technology implementations may be on a speed up mode because you're trying to probably bring a lot more technology to help your employees. Some of those technology deployment may be on hold at this moment. So different listeners today will be at different stages, but our objective and the end in mind of today's session is to really keep thinking and keep wanting to upgrade ourselves on how do we really leverage technology. So it's my privilege to have our expert speaker today, Vikrant Khanna. He's a partner in Asia Lead Advisory for Allied Solutions. So Vikrant needs no introduction for many of you in the region. He leads the organizational advisory for Asia, and he has worked very, very extensively with organizations in the HR transformation space and globalization initiatives as well that span on HR reorganization, HR operating model, shared services execution, cost optimization, and performance benchmarking. So hello, Vikrant. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Esther, and thanks for the warm welcome.
We're looking forward to your session. I think this is an area of passion for you, Vikrant. You've been working extensively on this, and we will be able to see some of the research insights, but also more importantly, application of how you've seen organizations being able to transform. So we're very excited about it.
Same here. Looking forward to sharing insights.
Wonderful. So let's start. Vikrant has prepared some quick poll questions for all of us to get us started. Vikrant, what I'm going to do is I'm going to just share the questions that you had prepared. Is it just to help us set the context of, before Vikrant takes us through the masterclass, set the context of some of the things that, you know, it's top of the mind when it comes to HR transformation. Where are we trying to invest? What is it that we are at different stages in that journey? So I'm going to request the team to show us, as we always do, inviting you all to go to menti.com. And in a minute, you will see the code as well that you need to enter, as you can see it now in your screen. So open a new browser window, go to www.menti.com. As you will see, it will prompt you to use a code, inviting all of you to write the code 417509, and then you'll get the access of the first question. So the first question is, what are the areas that you plan to increase your spend significantly? As you can see, these are all just words. So inviting everyone to just try to find one word that identifies where your increase of spend is going to be in the next 12 to 24 months. So we'll just give it a little bit of time for each one of you. Just put those one words. So we'll be able to see how the words coming together. We'll give it another 5-10 seconds. All right, so we're starting to see some of the things that are interesting. Employee experience is, of course, one word, actually, even though it's two words. So that's really good to see. That's a very important, critical area. And we can also see business continuity, of course, very timely. Technology. Great. So as the words keep coming, I think there is some little bit of trend coming along. Vikrant, any comments on this?
Yeah, absolutely, Esther. I think consistent with what we've been seeing, what we've been hearing, employee experience is really coming to the forefront. And of course, the current environment has really put business continuity into the spotlight. I'm not surprised to see that. And then if one looks at HR tech, technology, these are all all similar words. So if I was to draw something from it, organizations are planning to really push the bar on employee experience, and employee experience has been overused in many ways. If I was to simply translate it into how organizations are realizing it, they're trying to understand what are the moments that matter to employees. If you were to track their journey, and each one of us will be on a different journey as a stakeholder, as a persona of our own, and they are trying to identify those moments and see how can a combination of practices, intervention by people, and interventions of platform bring that experience to life. So no surprises here. I'm
Yeah.
certainly not surprised to see business continuity coming in.
Yeah.
It's really been at the spotlight. If one sees the rapid way in which everyone has moved to the remote working, virtual working,
Yeah.
it's no surprise. So this is really
Wonderful.
interesting, and yes, I'm happy in many ways that we'll be talking about this as we go through the masterclass.
Wonderful. I totally agree with you. I think the engagement and experience piece is one bucket, then technology and HR technology as the second bucket, and then business continuity as the third bucket is what we can see from this. So let's move to the next question quickly. I want to make sure we have the next enough time to cover all the content that you prepared for us, Vikrant. So let's go quickly to the next question. Team, if we could show the next question now. So the second question is, where are you in the journey of HR technology deployment right now? And I think this is important specifically for Vikrant. So as he goes through his masterclass, he'll also kind of emphasize where the group is more. So we have either you're in the planning stage or you're in the evaluating stage. We are in the middle of it right now, or we are already live. And I know that you'll have to take this question in the context of removing the interim problem statement that you're navigating through, but overall as an organization, where are you? That was the intent. Go ahead, Vikrant.
No, we'll all be at some stage or the other.
Correct.
If you've been live with technology some months back or probably years back, we'll be thinking about how to upgrade them. What are the new stacks we bring on top? Most of us will be planning or evaluating some or the other form of technology in HR. So I think this will be pertinent to all of us, and it'll be interesting for me, the reason why I put this question in was that, if I see a skew, we can probably spend more time on one aspect or the other. But right now, from the looks of it, I think it's a pretty well balanced mix.
Yeah.
One of the things that we are personally experiencing as an HR services provider is particularly around clients who are live with technology. I think they've been under tremendous pressure and to keep these technology lives, keep support and maintenance going around them. And certainly those who were in the midst of a deployment, it's been really impressive to see some of our clients, in fact, most of them, who've so quickly adopted to virtual ways of working that, there's been very minimal project delay around it. So, all of this has been enabled by some strong foundational work that's been done across the roadmap. We'll talk about it, but this is a very healthy mix. If I was to draw a line straight through the middle, I think it's a 50-50. 50% of the respondents or the participants today are in the stage of planning or evaluating something, whereas 50% are either going through the midst of a deployment or planning to accelerate what they already have.
Yeah, wonderful. Let's look at the last question. And then we'll dive in straight after the last question. All right, the last question we had is a very interesting one, and Vikrant, you will cover that in your session. It's just for us to reflect about what is the total cost of ownership for your technology. Do you know how much you actually spend on technology today? That was just for us to kind of get a sense about, do we have that figure in our own mind. Do we have that
Mhm.
awareness? And for many of our listeners, maybe the concept of total cost of ownership, if you may want to just clarify that, Vikrant, that will be useful as we wait for more responses to come.
Absolutely. Yeah, we'll talk about it. But total cost of ownership is it actually cuts across the cost of the technology itself. So, whatever license fees you're paying, the cost that you've paid for the deployment of the technology, the cost that you're paying for maintaining the technology. But more importantly, it also considers some of the other costs which aren't very visible. So let's
Okay.
say if you're live with a core HR system and you have a team to maintain that system, either
Got it.
from an application management standpoint or maintaining integrations or maintaining
Yep.
data. It's a combination of licensing costs, it's a combination of people costs, it's a combination of the cost that you spend on your deployment partners. That's one view of total cost of ownership. Some of the mature organizations actually take it beyond technology and they think about the impact which technology is having on the total cost of ownership of HR per se. So if
Yep.
technology is helping you eliminate some of the transactional tasks and helping you redeploy people to other roles, they even factor that in. So it's a broader concept, and more
Okay.
we are seeing that organizations which are relatively mature on evaluating technology and have been successful in their deployments. They've looked at this concept of total cost of ownership because it's
Very
helped them
nice.
realize benefits just outside of bringing in a new system, but it has also helped them track through what are the ways of working, how has it improved that, how has it made the HR organization more efficient, so to say. And
Good.
no surprises here, at least from an advisor standpoint. This is a relatively unknown concept.
Yeah.
Most of us, when we think about technology, we immediately go back to thinking, okay, what's the per employee per annum fees that I'm paying, or the per employee per month fees that I'm paying? And that becomes our end all of either evaluation or knowing the cost. But the reality is that that's just the tip of the iceberg. So I'm not surprised to see the reaction from the audience, but we'll talk a bit more about
Yep.
total cost of ownership and how it is so relevant in these days.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So, Vikrant, let's go deep dive into your session. As you can see on your right side of your screen, you'll have an opportunity to post questions, ask questions. Feel free to keep sending them as we go along. Vikrant, you're really going to have a stretch time to cover, and I know you have a lot of material to cover. So just be conscious about time because I want to make sure we have opportunity for Q&A as well at the end.
Sure, Esther.
Yeah, so
I
over to you.
love the opportunity for Q&As also. So, Esther, just a quick check.
Yes,
Is my presentation visible?
yes, we can see it right now.
All right. So before I jump into the topic, I think all of us have been having mixed emotions these days with the situation that we are in. I wanted to start off today with the emotion of gratitude. There's a lot which has been said about the medical professionals, the professionals who've been providing essential services, public services officers who've been at the forefront of making sure that the world is running, and that gratitude has no limits. Similarly, if I think of our work lives, we owe a huge amount of gratitude to the HR community at large, and it is this community which has really been at the forefront of either ensuring colleague safety, enabling remote ways of working, and making sure that from a communication, from an engagement standpoint, we are all in this together. So before I jump into it, really, it's gratitude for the HR community at large, and I think what we've been able to pull through as a group has been unprecedented, and it's been very fast to react with. So I'd want to congratulate everyone in the HR community, and that's the emotion I wanted to start off with. Quickly jumping into what I have today, insights on keys to successful HR technology deployments. It's a mix of experiences that we have and insights from Alight's State of HR Transformation Study 2020, for which we had People Matters as a media partner. Um, and I'm very happy to say that this study, in its third edition, is possibly one of the largest studies within the Asia Pacific region. We closed this year's study with about 1,300 participants, and it's really been quite humbling to see the response we've gotten to this topic. For those of you who may not know Alight, Alight is not a new organization. We have a fairly rich legacy of innovation and commitment to excellence. We trace our roots back to Hewitt Associates. So this is the erstwhile business of Hewitt Associates that was in the business of HR effectiveness and BPO. And we've evolved with time. So 2010, we became part of the Aon family, and that was also the time when we really accelerated our presence into the cloud space. 2017 is when Alight Solution was born. We're a 27-year-old new organization, and from 2017 to 2019, we've kept on that commitment to excellence in HR services. Very recently, with the acquisition of NGAHR, we truly are a full stack HR services provider globally, and with presence across all parts of the world. So that's Alight Solutions. And with that, I'll just get into some of the findings. And like Esther mentioned, keep the questions flowing. We'll find time to answer some of them or perhaps all of them. Okay, talking about what is changing around us, and I'll intentionally try to keep the current situation at bay because that's a black swan event, which I'm sure will alter the world in many ways than one. But if one was to keep that aside, I think the pace of acceleration of change has just increased. If one thinks of the pace at which business breakthroughs are happening, the pace at which the nature of the organization and jobs are getting reconfigured, and the very aspiration of talent, all of these are undergoing tremendous shifts. And what it has led to is the notion of speed, agility, and innovation all coming together. And when you put that together, it points towards organizations needing to be more adaptable. They should be able to sense the changes which are coming, be able to respond to them, and more important, they need to be able to respond to them faster than their competition or faster than the non-traditionals in their space who can come and disrupt them before they even know about it. So, there are enough and more examples that have been spoken about it. So this is the way of working for us now. We have to live in an era where the pace of change is accelerating. And it is that same pace of change which is getting embedded onto the HR organization per se. So as we think of this word adaptability, HR organizations will also need to be more and more adaptable. What you see on your screens is a representation of a triskelion. You can also think of it as a representation of a fidget in many ways, but it was very carefully chosen. So triangle is a shape which talks about continuous motion and fluidity. It also brings a sense of rigidity at the same time, but it's a harmonious mix of them. And and what you see in the colored spaces is our key anchors, which will define adaptability of HR. So adaptable HR organizations will be committed to outcomes. And I will stress on the word outcomes because it breaks the view of KPIs that we are used to. Outcomes at an organization level, outcomes at a talent level. they'll think of adoption at heart. So whatever programs that they are designing will be adopted by the various stakeholders. And from a from a management standpoint, from a direction setting standpoint, uh, adaptable HR organizations will have the courage to break away from the past. They'll be uh, they'll be more akin to experimentation. They'll be more akin to challenging business backed on data, and those will be key anchors. Uh, as you know, one of our ex colleagues from Hewitt Associates days would say, these are the bricks, but at times, it's the mortar which is more important. And as we think of the mortar, you'll see that the gray zone, where we are talking about three very essential disciplines of how a program's designed, what is the experience they deliver, and how does design and experience together enable governance, is also becoming important. So the one piece that I would like to bring all of this together is that adaptability has three anchors of outcomes: adoption, and the courage to break away from the past. And these are held together in our ways of working, the way we design programs, the way we deliver experience, measure experience, and how we challenge ourselves to continuously improve upon it through governance. So that said about adaptability, this year we set out on finding out what is it that is making HR organizations more adaptable. So this notion of being able to sense and respond faster, what are some of the driving factors around it? And as we looked at the confidence of our respondents, and this was done through confidence Likert across 20 to 25 odd statements. So each of the anchors measures that how confident our respondents are on their courage to break away from the past, how well are their programs adopted, and what's their commitment to outcomes. So as we looked at our data and data from over 1,300 organizations, we saw that adaptability needs two elements to come together. You need to have a defined HR operating model, but what we are seeing is that a combination of a well-functioning HR operating model and a complementing HR technology strategy is really pushing organizations further on their confidence and adaptability. Now, one may think that the scale just moves from about 16% to 46%. But if I was to dwell deeper and pick up organizations who've been successful on their HR technology strategy, this moves even further. So their confidence levels are even higher than what you're seeing on the extreme over here. And that's really coming to the forefront, that it's a combination of how well are we thinking about the HR organization and its processes, how well will they be complemented by the right set of technology, is what is pushing organizations to become more adaptable. And even between the operating model and technology, I think technology accelerates things further. And that's why you see a digital divide where the result of the combination is much more than just following a sequence of incremental improvements. But at the same time, I'll give you a point to ponder over. You see two lines which are almost running parallel to each other. On the top, the yellow lines are talking about the percentage of uh, our respondents who are planning to invest significantly more in HR technology. So this has been a study we've been running for since 2016. It's in its third edition. And year on year, what we found is that almost half of our respondents are spending more and more on HR technology. So it's an area where money is going in and significant commitment of resources is being made. But at the same time, what is what really gets us thinking is that if one was to think about, are organizations deriving the impact of technology, and that impact is linked with the percentage of organizations which are highly satisfied with their technology, we've hardly seen any movement over there. So I'll give the time for the audience and our viewers to reflect upon it. This is an area where investments are continuously increasing, and this is an area where satisfaction hasn't moved a notch over the last few years. So that's the chasm that we'll try to talk about in our conversation and the next few slides that I have for you. That what is it that we've learned and we've observed from organizations who've gotten their technology deployments right. And for that, the way we've structured it is that I'll take you through the four broad stages of any deployment. And you've already responded to it. There's a stage where we are planning or thinking of buying a new technology or investing in new technology. There's a stage where we evaluate on where is it that this technology should take us. There's a stage where we deploy it, and then we realize and continuously improve upon it. So we'll talk about those four stages. Let's jump straight into it. At the planning stage, there's, of course, you can go through some of the things which happen in the planning stage, but what I'd like to talk about really is that most of the deployments that we've seen gone wrong have gone wrong right at the planning stage, because there hasn't been clarity on why are we doing this technology, what is the experience it will bring to the stakeholders, and how will we measure that experience. It sounds too deep at this stage, but if not addressed at the planning stage, it will come back to bite organizations once they are live. And there can be several examples which can be taken. We've seen organizations who've invested into platforms because it's the fad these days. So, if you were to think of what's happening right now in the space of natural language conversations, chatbots, or what was the state that automation was in a few years back. There was a lot of experimentation going on, and really it led to not a lot of impact. The same happens with the larger HR platforms as well. That, what is it that you're doing HR platforms for? There needs to be clarity around the goals. How will those goals be measured? And then once that is in place, the executive buy-in needs to be almost unequivocal. There isn't any looking back after that. Um, the second piece around planning, what we've seen a lot is not every technology initiative is transformative in nature. Call it transformation only when it is. And I'll give you a cue on when does it become transformative. We spoke about the MOTAR, right? Design, experience, and governance. So if your technology initiative is not touching upon the three of them, it isn't transformative. So let's not call it transformation then, because it actually sets wrong expectations, particularly with the leadership, with your stakeholders, be it employees, be it managers. When people hear transformation, they really want a leap and bound change in the experience which they have. So we've got to be very careful in setting our vision and really being clear on whether it is transformative or not. Some insights from the study over here. If one looks at where is the world of HR technology headed, particularly on an area where spend is the maximum, so your core HR platforms and talent management platforms, we see that 2020 is a year of unification. So what you're seeing on your screens is the dominant HR technology strategy and how that has moved from 2016 to 2020. And at an overall level, we've seen a gradual shift of HR technology strategies being more anchored around best of breed to now moving towards unification. I'll take some time to run through this. So if one was to turn back the clock a few years, platforms weren't mature and organizations had varied needs. So we'll go ahead, we'll buy something specifically for performance management. We'll buy something specifically for recruitment. And that led to us having several platforms which were managed. And That was the best of breed strategy. Now, with platform maturity as well as maturity in our buying behaviors, what we've realized is that having one platform really helps a lot because of a multitude of benefits. You don't have to maintain a lot of integrations. Data flows seamlessly. User experience is very consistent. So over the years, unification has come to the forefront. Best of breed is changing its definition in many ways. So it's not about having multiple platforms, but it's about experimenting more and more with niche technologies, be it around chatbots, service bots, thinking around passive engagement, or bringing in newer dashboards for newer technologies for analytics. That's the new definition of best of breed, where it's really about adding on some niche technologies to to create incremental benefits on your core HR platform. So unification is on the rise, and that's the big insight that we wanted to share around. And this is relevant for those who are in the planning stages of their journey. Moving on to evaluation, we spoke about the four phases. So I'm on the second phase of evaluation. Uh, Cloud is being spoken about as relatively easy these days, right? That cloud deployments are fairly simple. You don't need to go through all the time spent on on-premise deployments. But what remains at heart is that you're still choosing for a longer horizon. It is still money which is being invested, and as you think of evaluating platforms, don't just limit yourself to the platform. Think of the organization that creates that platform also, because eventually you'll evaluate platforms for the kind of innovation that they bring. You'll evaluate platforms for the commitment that they have for the domain, and all of this cannot just be evaluated by looking at technical specifications. You'll have to go into the organization. It's a relationship which is being set between two organizations. The platform is just the currency in between. I can think of a few of our clients who've taken this to the extreme. So one of our clients followed the release roadmaps of several platforms for almost a year and a half. They wanted to see what is it that they promise in their release roadmap, what is it that they release, and how consistent are they in driving that innovation. So think about it. You're choosing a platform which may be best in class today, but will it be best in class 2 years down the line? That's what you're evaluating for. The second shift that we are seeing is that we're seeing a lot of organizations break away from the technical specifications and compliance view to actually bringing platforms in and asking them to run through user scenarios. Don't just respond to an RFP by saying that, okay, this functionality our platform has, but come and show it to us. Show us how this comes to life for a manager, let's say, when he's supposed to give performance feedback, or for a leader when he wants to drill down on headcount analysis for his organization. Show us how it is done, because these are use cases that will be more prominent. So we are seeing a lot of use cases coming to life. And if there was one last thing I'll touch upon around evaluation, and you all responded to it, please have a total cost of ownership view in your evaluations. Don't just limit yourselves on what is the subscription fees you're paying. Those decisions more often fail because what you've not factored in, if you don't go the TCO route, you will not factor in for the additional money that you may spend on different forms of configurations or customizations. You will not be able to account for the kind of integration costs that you'll have. And last but not the least, your administration or the maintenance costs may just go through the roof. So as you evaluate technology, uh, bring in a more holistic perspective on total cost of ownership. That's going to be really key, because subscription, like I've been saying, is just the tip of the iceberg. There are a lot more cost elements which make up total cost of ownership. And this is all reflective in, if we look at the trending of technology evaluation parameters. So what you're seeing on your screens right now is the shift that we've seen from 2016 to 2020. And I've also brought in a view of how mature organizations are evaluating technology on. The big changes you'll see is that analytical capabilities have really come to the forefront. So they comprise almost 8 to 10%, probably more of your evaluation criteria. User experience has been consistently there. If one reflects back on why you are doing technology, employee experience is at the forefront. Till about 2016, TCO didn't even make it to our top 5 evaluation parameters. And look at it now, it's right up there, contributing almost 12% of the evaluation uh, parameters. If one looks at the mature organizations and how they're evaluating technologies, it's almost like a 4-point agenda. Outside of analytical capabilities, employee experience, and TCO, they're also looking at seeing who is the deployment partner. So, in common terms, who is the system integration partner that will be responsible for getting that technology to work? That's also really becoming very important, and we'll talk about it why in the next section, the next phase of that evaluation that we call is around deployment. I put it up there. So deployment is when you're actually piecing together that technology, getting it configured, testing it, and making it live. And as we were deliberating on, what's the big message over here? It's really about time spent by senior HR leaders on during the deployment phase is directly proportionate to your success. Many a times we've seen that, yes, at the evaluation level, we do see senior HR leaders spend a fair bit of time, and then they move on to being on steering committees or governing bodies. They don't really spend time at the ground level. That is pushed down the organization. What that does is that once, let's say, requirements have been captured and you're ready to show a prototype to your leadership teams, they'll say that, okay, it's not feeling right. It's not giving the right experience. And that leads to a lot of frustration and rework. So senior HR leaders spending time and dedicating more time during the deployment phase enables a couple of things. One, I think it enables change management pretty well because they'll realize the extent of change and the extent of education that people will need to go through. These are senior HR leaders. They can also get the buy-in of the business people who need to be supportive of this change. Second, I think key process design decisions, key reporting decisions, key control point decisions are made in a better fashion and in a more meaningful way because your senior HR leaders will really have insights around what do various stakeholders want. So that really becomes important. And I think with senior HR leaders spending time, they will not view go live as the date of celebration. Go live is the date when, we've seen some of our successful clients be the most worried because that's the time when your technology opens up for your users. And that's a time when people are most worried that, will they use it properly? Will it give the right experience? Will they adopt it as a way of their daily working? So with senior HR leaders spending time, they'll really make adoption the goal and not just the go live. And with shifts coming in from both the evaluation side as well as more and more senior HR leaders spending time is what we've seen in successful deployments. System integrators or deployment partners are also under a fair bit of pressure to change their ways of working. So this year we were bold enough and we went out and asked that what is it that you want from your deployment partner outside of implementation credentials? Usually when we are evaluating our system integrators, we'll evaluate them on Okay, which are the organizations where you've done this? Well, that's good. But for the first time in the years that we've been running this study, we've seen that the organizational context is coming out so sharply while evaluating a deployment partner. People want their deployment partners to understand the experience that has been planned for the stakeholders, help the combination of program aspiration and platform come together. That is where addressing program design issues comes on top. They really want to realize a target HR operating model, which means that you want to free up bandwidth of your senior HR business partners and COE leaders to focus on problem solving and strategic thinking. You want to take away any administrative burden of transactional activities. As you think of employee experience, harmonization of processes is very important. And harmonization does not equal standardization. Harmonization is the will and the acceptance that certain processes will be different because they are delivering a different kind of an experience. So harmonization is important. Of course, change has been an evergreen topic, but with the combination of experience and process harmonization, the way we think of change management and adoption is also changing. So, senior HR leaders need to spend time. Go live is not the end goal. It is adoption, which is the goal. And even system integration stroke deployment partners will need to change their ways of working if you want to have technology deployment done the right way. Last but not the least, it's the realization phase. Once you are live with technology, what happens then? And I'll link it back to almost each and every part. But foremost, I'll talk about your planning stage, where we said that you're only as good as the vision which you set. If there is any flaw in the vision, you'll not know what to measure, and you'll not know what is the impact that technology is creating. Uh, we talk about digitization. If digitization isn't changing the way we work, and way we work has got three definitions as per the research that we've conducted. So the ways of working change, which need to really come up front, is, are we collaborating more? So as an HR organization, have we thought about or has the technology enabled more and more collaboration? A good example would be that from a talent acquisition perspective, what are the insights which we can generate for our talent management teams around adoption? What is it that talent management can feed back to acquisition? Are there certain channels which are giving us high quality talent? Are there certain channels which are not? So have we started collaborating the right way? Have we started interacting with our business stakeholders in a different manner, not just in a way of firefighting, but are we generating the right insights to be viewed as more proactive in the eyes of our business stakeholders? Think about how technology is helping you do better workforce planning, or predict and enable better mobility of talent within the organization. Is the nature of conversation changing with our business stakeholders? And last but not the least, are we changing our aspirations to aim even higher? We speak about governance, we speak about the continuous need to innovate, but how is technology enabling all of that? That is always a journey mindset. Uh, you are evaluating platforms for innovation. More and more innovation will keep coming. Are we ready to quickly evaluate and bring those innovations into our organizations and change the ways of working? Becomes really important when you are live with technology. So go live is never the end of the journey. Actually, in many ways, it is the beginning of a journey. And always think that whenever we are changing some part of design, experience will get impacted. The way we continuously improve on it through governance, that will change. So those are some of the big messages that we wanted to touch upon today. And if there was a way that I could bring it all back, and really, if put it almost like putting it in a mathematical formula. So if someone was to ask me what makes up a successful HR technology deployment, here's in many ways what my answer would be. A successful HR technology deployment is equal to having the right arrogance in our ambition and having humility in execution. So if there is a place where we really need to push ourselves and have arrogance, is on the objectives, the goals, and how will we get there piece. When it comes to execution, some of the most successful organizations that we've worked with have been really humble and disciplined in their execution. They've been open to ideas. They've been really they've taken feedback at times from people who are external, at times from people who are far more junior to them, because whatever feedback that is coming in is in line with the arrogance. So if there was a formula, be arrogant in your ambition, try and push the boundaries. But when it comes to execution, it's really humbling and needs a disciplined approach. That's what I had to share. And Esther, now we can move to questions and see what do our viewers have for us.
Great, thank you. Thanks, Vikrant. And we've covered a lot of content in just even little less than 40 minutes. And thank you so much for taking us through the whole journey, starting from the model to how to break it down into the 4 phases, and very well summarized with a mindset that you're inviting all of us to really look at this transformation journey. So we've got a lot of questions, Vikrant. I'm conscious about time, and we're already overshot a little bit, but with everyone's permission, I'm extending another 5 minutes so we can at least take a couple of questions. And Vikrant, what I will do is the rest of the questions that we can't cover, I will send them to you offline, so maybe we can reconnect back with some of the leaders who had asked those questions. Yeah. So I think the first question from Dipti, she asked a question in terms of timing and how much time we should spend in each phase. And I think where she's coming from is sometimes we may tend to spend too much time evaluating, and then we miss the point that as you correctly said, the goal is adoption. So is there any best practice or any guideline that you can tell us in terms of how much time we should spend in each of one of those phases?
It really depends upon the kind of technology that you're.
In terms of ratio, you have to give us a ratio. If you can't give us an exact time to say, okay, if 100 is the time, then that's how you should break it down.
If 100 is the time, right from when you start thinking of technology to really going live with it, I'd say that you spend about 20% of your time planning for it. It's like sharpening the axe. About 10% to 15% of the time in evaluation, which is your formal process of RFPs and things like those. In fact, we've seen many organizations who get so clear at the planning stage that they build a case to single source. They say that we are convinced that this is a platform or this is the technology which will suit our needs. So let's avoid an evaluation process. So evaluation processes shouldn't take up more than 10 to 15% of your time. I'd say the balance, if one thinks of your post-go live and the adoption, that takes up again about 25% of your time. And whatever is left is the deployment time.
Wonderful. Thanks. So there's a question from Pramod talking about how can technology help us enhance the intersect between tech and human. Any insights there that you could share with us? How can we use the deployment of technology to actually up the intersect and the humanness that we have as part of our HR operating delivery model?
Yeah. So this has been spoken about a lot, right? That what needs to be high tech, what needs to be high touch, how does it combine? And the way we're solving it for organizations and our clients is that we're taking a view which looks at the journey of the employee. And through technology or any intervention, you're trying to solve for a pain point. As you think of what are the moments at which those pain points are coming to life? It will always be a combination of certain interventions by people. It could be their manager, it could be their leader, it could be a peer, or it could be a certain policy or a program coming to the rescue, or it could be a platform. So, is technology a silver bullet? No. It will always be a combination of people, practices, and some form of platform or technology which will solve. So, thinking about experience just through the lens of technology may be wrong. But as you think of this combination, this triage, so to say, you'll get the right answer.
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. Thanks, Vikrant. And we'll have to actually stop here because we are conscious about everyone's time and your time as well. So I want to thank you for putting this deck together. And I know how much of knowledge and how much of experience and how many more examples you could have shared, because I know how much passion you have for this topic, but I think the way you curated it for us was very, very meaningful. So thank you very, very much for sharing that time and that deck with us today.
It's been my pleasure. It's been my pleasure. And thank you to the viewers who've taken out time on a Friday evening for those of you in the region, and Friday afternoon for those of you in India.
Yeah. So looking forward, bringing you back, Vikrant, with many more of those masterclasses so we can deep dive in some of the different areas that you covered today.
We'll look forward to that, Esther.
Thank you. Great. So for everyone else, a quick update. As you know, next week we are doing an exclusive CXO talk show on 3rd of April. It will be at 2 p.m. Singapore time, which is 11:30 India time, on the future of people strategy post COVID-19 crisis. We're very excited to have Chin Yin, head of people at Grab. We have Jason Ababuk, CEO and co-founder of LeapGen, and Nikhil Arora, managing director and vice president for GoDaddy. And we're going to be reflecting about what would people strategy look like after what we all going through. And it's going to be very interesting to put our future hats and visualize and imagine what the future is going to look like, and what are the opportunities that this crisis can bring to all of us as talent leaders. So we will also have a repeat broadcast for the audience in London and East Coast and West Coast as well in the US. But that will happen, a repeat broadcast that will happen after that. Great. So for daily updates on what's happening across the world in people and work, you can download People Matter Sphere. You just kind of see it in your app store or your mobile store, and you can hear and read the crisp 5 stories that we're curating for you every day. And keep tuned as well with all the other learning sessions that we're doing. We're also upping up all our digital offerings to make sure that we're servicing you and supporting you in these moments of difficulty as well. All right, so thank you, Vikrant, once again, and have a lovely day.
You too, Esther.
Wonderful. Thank you, everyone. See you very soon. Have a great day.
All right.